used to see injustice. You smell the oppression. Your brother crying to you. You say I can't help you. All they doing their jobs. All they doing their jobs. All they doing is doing their jobs. All they doing is doing their jobs. Now tell me who's above you, making all of these orders, abusing their positions, thinking that they're winning. Now what's a man to gain the world, but to lose his own soul? All the lives that you stole, the Most High is in control. All they doing is doing their jobs. All they doing is doing their jobs. All they doing is doing their jobs. All they doing is doing their jobs.
I've been working on a documentary for the last 2 years. Me being here is not a part of that at all. But I started working on it because I had a very terrible experience in the hospital with the birth of my first son, Asi. He's about to be 5 years old in a week. And the way they treated us in the hospital led to my baby being in the NICU for a week. When I became pregnant again, when my husband and I were expecting again, we were terrified of the hospital. And we wanted to find a different way. And I found a world of Black midwives and Black doulas and Black birth advocates and Indigenous women working in their community to make birth better. And I just spent the last 2 years talking with them and filming them, and because I wanted everyone to hear what I was hearing, and to see what I was seeing. There's this whole world, this whole community that Saisha and Ty and everyone else up here spoke of. It exists, and it might not be right in your own town, but it's out there. It's working to build roots, and capillaries. The roots are there, actually. It's historical, that work. It's been in this country since the beginning of the country. There have been Black midwives and Black birth workers, and they were the people who took care of us and loved us, who touched our bodies lovingly. And that's not what happened to me at the hospital. So in my work on this documentary, I talked to a lot of midwives who told me stories like Ty and Saisha's story, like all of your stories. So when I saw the post, a manicurist I worked with on a film, we only worked once together, but we had one of those real deep conversations, a soul-to-soul conversation in that short period of time, and she sent me their story. She wanted me to see it, and I saw Amin-Ra's sparkling eyes and his oiled skin, his beautiful brown skin, all oiled, his hair. He looked so loved. His eyes were so sparkly. They are so sparkly. And I thought, something is wrong here, just from that picture. What is going on? This baby is loved. The last couple summers, BLM protests, fighting for Black liberation, fighting for our lives, fighting for justice, fighting for autonomy, fighting to be able to ask for help and not be criminalized or penalized for it. That's what people have been fighting for, right? And I think that when you get into this space, this Black maternal space, this maternal space where we're talking about lactation, and we're talking about birth, and we're talking about natural birth and C-sections, and somehow there's a disconnect where people don't realize that this is a part of the larger movement. This is the other half. This is the other half, right? And I'm gonna speak in very general terms because we know I'm not being gender specific. This is general the way I'm saying this. But we know on one hand, we have the police system how we're criminalized, how we are being policed, how our families, our fathers, our brothers, our sisters are being taken out of our homes, are being killed in the streets. Well, this is the other side. There's a whole nother system. There's a hospital system where black women and black children are dying, where black children are being taken away. Our children are being taken away. I can't illustrate it better than any of the people that came here and told you their own stories. But I can tell you as a mother what my children are to me and to my husband and to our family. They are our wildest dreams made manifest, things we could not even conceive of dreaming about. Their very lives reach so far beyond our own. They are the source of our joy. They are the source of our soul. All of a sudden, your life now has a reason, has a meaning when you see this little person and carry them in your arms. And so, we're talking about unity and the importance of community. And this is a beautiful way to do it with meditation and in peace. But there is a time to fight, and there is a time to come together as one voice. And the stories you heard are not just from Florida, they're from around the country. And the posts that I've shared are not being just answered by the people who follow me in California, or the people around the world who are going, what is going on? So this space in Payne Park is the alarm bell being rung. And somebody said it before, and I'll say it again. If you take my neighbor's child, if you take someone in my village's child, then you can't come and take mine. And I won't allow it. Their child is my child. And we have to stand together in that way because it's wrong. We don't have a future without our children. It is wrong. And they have to give them back, and they have to stop what they're doing. And I'm telling you now, the way systemic change works, they have to be afraid to ever do it again. They know they're wrong, but they think they have the right to do it. This country has taught them that for centuries, and it's wrong. They don't have the right to do it anymore. And I'll tell you, I don't know why God put this in me, but He did. And I talked to you on the phone about your baby. I talked to you, and I'm going to talk to others. I don't know why God put this in my spirit, but I told Saisha, and I told this to Ty, that I would do everything in my power to help bring an end to it. And I will, and I make that promise to you too. Along this way, because we cannot do it alone, and I could not do it alone. It's just me and my little computer. But there are people out there who are so powerful, and one of them who heard the call is Tamika Mallory from Until Freedom. And the only reason she's not here is because there's a hurricane in New York, where she would have been leaving from. But she's been speaking to me since about 2 a.m. her time, and she asked me to read this statement. I'm deeply saddened that several members of Until Freedom were unable to travel to Sarasota today because of Hurricane Henry. We live in the Northeast where flooding and winds are severe. Several weeks ago, I received a call from Tatiana Ali as she advocated for Saisha and Ty. The story was heartbreaking, and I was immediately enraged. Members of my organization were informed, and I must admit that too many of us were shocked. How could this happen in 2021? Tatiana, and soon Saisha and Ty and others quickly informed us of how often women and families are being separated from their children. Since posting about Saisha and Ty, we've received countless messages from other women who need help. Today marks a new day for all of us. If we did not know, we know now, and we must do something. And those who are already fighting the fight have new warriors in the movement. Thank you, Saisha and Ty, for understanding that your family must now fight for others. And I'm going to close with this one thing that I've learned about Ty and Saisha, that is they are such remarkable people. Because in all my conversations with them, trying to understand their stories so I could better help, they never let a conversation end without talking about all of the other stories that they've heard. They never let a conversation end without saying, it's not just us, you have to meet them too. There are many of us. That says something about the kind of people they are. It says something about the kind of people we have to be to win. In my motherhood journey, my mother told me one thing. She told me a lot of things. But even coming here today with Delta, and yes, Mommy, I'm wearing my mask. I'm wearing my mask because we're always mothered, right? We always need mothering. I'm wearing my mask. She told me, and I wanted to share this with you as some strength. She said, you take care of yourself because nobody can raise your babies like you can.
Yes.
It doesn't, I love them, your father, we all will help, but nobody, I can never do it like you. And remember that about your children. Nobody can do it like you. They came from you. A loud chant, it could even be a mantra. We could say it like a mantra. But it's important to go from, the meditation earlier was so important because it girded up what's inside, but it's important for it to come out and become manifest. And sometimes using your voice in that way helps that happen. So we can say it like a mantra. Is that okay?
Yeah, we're okay.
Okay. Bring Ra home. 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 Ra home. Bring Ra home. Bring Ra home. Bring Ra home. Now Zephaniah. Bring Zephaniah home. 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 Now Aaliyah. Bring Aaliyah home. Bring Messiah home. Bring Messiah home. Bring Messiah home. Now if we just stay silent, and when you do chanting, your whole body vibrates. Just pay attention to the vibration. Everything you've done as a community is already being heard, and the waves are already starting.
Yes.
Know that.
We feel it. We feel it. We feel it.
Of 400 years of slavery. How many of us remember and read and watched movies about black moms having babies and having to hand them over to literally the highest bidder? Does anybody recognize the name Harriet Bailey? She was the mother of Frederick Douglass. And Frederick Douglass writes that it was devastating for him to be separated from his mother at birth. But guess what she did? She would walk 4 hours to see him for 30 minutes. And then she would run back to her plantation 4 more hours before the master noticed she was gone. By the age of 7, she had died. And Frederick Douglass writes, I found out she died long after she had already passed away. And he writes, that was the cornerstone. Ty said it earlier. This impacts people. It takes a lifetime to undo the trauma. I also want to offer that a system that has branded themselves with child protection is always going to look for a parent to blame. So I reiterate and I implore people to strengthen families instead of pulling them apart, because we constantly undermine family well-being by focusing on the child. But guess what? I often say, it's not rocket science. If you want to save a child, save their family. If you want to help a child, help their parents. If you want to protect black children, protect black mothers. I am afforded the opportunity to talk to child welfare professionals all over the country, and I never squander an opportunity to tell them, do not rip apart another family. Why is it a knee-jerk reaction to place in foster care, which I now call stranger care? Reframe it. They're taking their children from parents and placing them with strangers. And these are well-intentioned people, well-meaning people, I understand that. But why when there's families that are available? Principally, we need communities to work hard to create a world where it's easier to help your neighbor out rather than report them to CPS. As a previous investigator, I got reports from neighbors that called us because of something that happened just 3 doors down. Why? Where is the community cohesiveness? Where's the familial ties? We need to build and equip communities. We also need to respect the sacredness of family bonds. We need to stop the continuation of systemic oppression, abusing power, dehumanization. The things I hear from parents constantly who call me and email me and say, Dr. Price, they came in, they took my kids. Can they do that? Policies and laws allow it. I want to offer this up to you, and I hope it's encouraging. The racial disproportionality is rising in visibility to national leaders. So there is progress, so to speak, but it's important not to get content with just progress. Anybody recall James Baldwin? He asked a question many moons ago. He said, how long will we have to wait for your progress? So overhauling the system, revamping it, transforming it, it's not going to happen overnight, but we don't have to wait. There's things you can do today. And the very first thing I tell my colleagues in state and out of state you have to do is admit you're not the expert. Admit that when you give a recommendation to a parent, they have the right to ask questions and the right to say no. The system is not the expert. We can't sit in our offices and redesign the system, rebuild it, and then take it to the community and say, look what we've done for you. First step is asking the community, every mom that was up here talking about their children, you should be our key informants on how to redesign the child welfare system. We don't need to do it without you.
There has never been a legitimate legal basis to remove either of these children from their home under Florida statutes. It's important that you know that the justifications, and we don't concede that the statute is good. We think after we bring Raw home, we have to take a policy review and change the statute. But even under the statute as it currently exists, there's been no legal basis to bring Raw, to take Raw. There was never a legal basis to take a set. The statute concedes that the parents have the right to parent. The statute concedes that the parents have the right to seek medical treatment. It's important that we put it out there that at every single instance, this family sought medical treatment. At every single instance, this family sought help. And that makes a crucial distinction because this isn't a case where you have a mandatory reporter. And that changes the burden that the state has. And so when a parent is seeking help under Chapter 39, under 01, under subsection 47, you can't have medical neglect when a parent is seeking medical help. Think about it. Just think about it factually. The oxymoron that you can go seek medical help and at the same time be neglecting for trying to get what you're asking for. It's like going to a river and saying you're thirsty. It just don't make good sense. And so that's what we have here, is that you don't have to be a lawyer, you don't have to be a legal scholar to understand that what they're saying doesn't make sense. So what do you have? You have a system that is built and created to remove children from home, and it's all about the dollar bill. Why Clef said it better than I can, and that's what we're looking at here, because the system needs to remove children from homes.
That's right.
Unfortunately, the system did not know that when they took Raw, they were stepping into a hurricane. They didn't understand that when they took Raw, they didn't understand the will and determination that Ty and Cy had.
That's right.
And more importantly, they didn't understand their will to fight for all these other families and for all these other kids. And so I can tell you that along with Derek, we've been working 10 hours every day to bring Raw home.
God bless you.
We thank God that Aset is home, but until Raw's home, we won't stop.
That's right.
That's our job. In every communication, and there's a team of people. I mean, there's been a team of people here. This is not the credit for me. This is not the credit for Derek, Attorney McBurrows. There's been a team of people on every call, at every meeting. I mean, it's been insane. You know, I've never seen it on any of my other cases, and most of them are in federal court in the Northern District, the kind of support from a team of people working on this case. And so it's truly a collective victory. Changed my spirit to see that girl back where she belongs with her parents. That's not a complicated thought. She belongs with her parents. Yet that one sentence has been perverted by DCF and changed in so many ways to manipulate for financial purposes. But it's simple to say, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep going. We are going to bring Raw home. We will win. 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 Bring Raw home. Thank you.
I'm like one of those reverends at church service say, I won't be before you long, my brothers and sisters. And especially after Tatiana Ali, I mean, me and Lewis was like, we don't want to follow that. So I'm gonna just do my best to say what's on my heart, and I ask for the Holy Spirit to help me. In 1957, Dr. King gave a speech, and it was called The Other America. And ultimately, that speech characterized the dual nature that law applied for some, but it didn't apply for all. And that's one of the major messages major themes that I think of when I think of Ty, Cy, Amin Ra, Aset, and the 3 children that they currently have in their place. When I think of them now, and even that we're celebrating now in the absence of Amin Ra. We're advocating now in the absence of Amin Ra. And ultimately, I think of the 3/5 clause, where the 13th and 14th Amendment was supposed to abolish the 3/5 clause. And if anybody doesn't know a little bit about that history, the 3/5 clause was like, we had African Americans, by virtue of just their nationality, by virtue of their color, they were deemed to be 3/5 of a man. And ultimately, even in spite of them being deemed 3/5 of a man, their slave owner ultimately inherited any rights that they got. So when I think of Amin Ra, this family has been restored 3/5 whole. 3/5 whole. Department of Children and Families, Manatee County Child Protective Investigations Unit, they've deemed that these parents, Ty and Cy, are able to adequately care for 4 children, but not 1. That's another oxymoron that Lewis was talking about. Tatiana Ali was also brought, and it just rang in my ears, that ultimately change isn't something that just is acquired by time. It's something that they ultimately have to fear. We have to put fear in our legislator. We have to put fear in the Department of Children and Families. We have to put fear in Manatee County Sheriff's Office, Child Protective Division. We gotta call them. We gotta harass them like they harassed this family. And until the moment that we have peace, they won't have any peace. When I think about when the Constitution was originally enacted, I believe it was 1787. The Constitution was not written for all Americans. That's why you had to have the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, that ultimately included African Americans, abolishing slavery. The 14th Amendment, why would we have to have an equal protection clause? Because all people were not created equal. Why do we fast forward in the 19th Amendment? Why do we have, women had to fight for the right to be recognized on the ballots, for their voice to be heard to elect congressional officers, people that create laws. You know what I mean? We had to fight for it, and today together we're collectively gathered together to fight for the rights, not only for Amin Ra, not only for Aset, but for all of these children that are represented here, for all of the children where we're getting calls day in and day out, and I can't even answer all of them. From parents who saying that my rights are being infringed upon. The very rights that this country is built upon is infringing upon my rights on a daily basis, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like Saisha was saying earlier, we will gather together for entertainment, but when it comes to pain, when it comes to suffering, we're silent. We show up in drones and maskets for boycotting masks, but when it comes about the rights of our children, where are our people? Where are our people? Thank you, ma'am. Whether it's CNN or whether it's Fox News, we focus on things that factionisms. We focus on things that divide us. But there are more things that unite us than divide us. We will, America, focus on that. So ultimately, I came here to say that we are going to, Saisha and Ty, although we celebrate Aset being home, they are still 3/5 whole. And we are going to make our voice known. We're going to make our voice heard. We're going to knock on the doors of the legislature. We're going to knock on the doors of DCF. We're going to knock on the doors of Manatee County Sheriff's Office until they open it up and not only let out Amin Ra, but they let out all these other children that they're neglecting. Thank you.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, but are you listening?
Yes.
Are you listening? The words that have vibrated in the air today is not a coincidence that you are here to hear them. Carry them far and wide. Don't let them fall on deaf ears. Are you listening?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Within these moments, it is important for us to remember that a community cannot exist without our children. A community cannot grow without the young. And if we find ourselves in a space where our young are being kidnapped, are being murdered, are being raped, are being taken out of loving homes to be exposed to all kinds of trauma, we have to rise up. We have to be creative. We have to be strategic about our way forward. If they are playing the game, we have to learn the game so we can play it better. These are serious times that we are living in. You see, when Bob Marley said, get up and stand up for your rights, get up and stand up. Don't give up the fight. It's not no joke thing. Babylon lives inside the hearts and the minds of man. Babylon is no longer just an institution. There are individual players who have been the demons in these situations with these families that you have heard today. How do we hold these individuals accountable? Make sure to lift your voices. We have mothers who have come from far, inspired for a moment to share their story, to be heard, who have not been heard for too long, whose tears have gone and fallen on the ground with no repercussion for those who have made them cry. What are we going to say to them? Sorry?
No. We're with you.
We are with you. Get up. Stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up. Stand up. Do not give up the fight.
Yes.
See, we have the right to be right, but they want to let us think that we are wrong. They want to criminalize us. They want to discriminate against us. They ostracize us. They isolate us so we feel lonely, like we have no support, Like we have no one in the back watching our back. Yo, your children have aunties and uncles all over the world who are fighting for them in this moment. You may not know us by name, but we are here in this now. I have been crying all day. But this entire campaign, I have not had a chance to really just tune into what is happening, because if I tune into what is happening, then I don't know how I can stand. I don't know how these mothers stand and do this. My son is now 13 months old, the same age that Ra was when he was taken. So every day for the past couple of months, I have watched my son and thought, this is what Saisha is missing. And then when I heard the stories of the other mothers, I said, this is what they are missing? I'm a first-time mom. To witness the torture that my sisters and my brothers are going through, how can I stand aside and look? How can I not lift my voice and say something? It's COVID time. All right. Danisha, where are you going across the world with your newborn baby? All right. But we have to get up and stand up. We cannot be limited. No. There is a surge that is happening, that is moving through humanity. Feel the energy. Do not deny it. Protect the Starseeds. This is no joke. Do you know who the Starseeds are? They're that beautiful future that they don't want us to have. They're that beautiful future that we have been fighting for, that our ancestors have sacrificed so much for. There is a saying, they tried to bury us, but they didn't know that we are the seeds. We are the seeds. And our roots are going to grow deep, and our wings are going to spread wide. And we will fly, we will find our way to Zion. We will create our Zion. Do not let Babylon get into your meditations and destabilize you. Do not let them let you feel insecure and like you don't strong. Hey, black woman, you know who you are? Black woman, do you know who you are? Where are the big human rights organizations who should be out here saying something? Where are they? Silence. We cannot wait. We cannot wait. Now is the time for us to find our strength in each other. Tegan, say her name. Say her name, Mama. And this is a shout out to all of the mothers who are going through this trauma right now. No woman, no cry. Seeing? Everything is going to be all right. But what that means is that we as soldiers who are standing on the front lines have to get up and stand up and kick down some gates and bust through Babylon doors and make them know, so watch this. We are soldiers. These women are protected. We have to keep breaking them down, or else they will continue to repeat themselves for generations and generations, and we will never be free.
With those kids, because it meant everything to me. In December, I had just got off work, and all I know is she was still sick. They deemed it as abuse without anything. The police came and questioned me. They asked me over and over again. I couldn't tell them anything. I wasn't home. I didn't know. I couldn't tell them. And that wasn't good enough for them. They questioned me or interviewed me, as they said, for 13 hours straight. They finally came to my residence, because at the time, during my questioning, I was in the hospital with that very niece. And by this time, I had been up awake for 36 hours. I was so tired. But I gave them everything they needed because I wanted to help that little girl land in the hospital. They came to my house and made me submit to a random drug test, which I passed. I don't do anything. I had nobody here. My baby was all I had. And ultimately, the allegation of abuse was against my husband at the time, and my only crime was being married. For almost 2 years, I've been fighting with everything in me. He usually wins these cases in appeal. So there was no fighting for me because he was adamant that he could win an appeal. And I gave them a list. I gave CPS and everybody a list of 75 family members. Please understand, my tribe in Illinois is so large. They have been fighting with me this whole time. My child was placed. The person who stood up and said that she would make sure my child got with family and she would do everything to help me, told CPS she wanted to adopt my baby. And she's been fighting me ever since. She even told, she testified that I didn't deserve my only child. And I just couldn't understand what I had done to anybody besides try to be there for people whenever they needed me. There was only one medical expert at my trial. And she was a child protective forensic pediatrician. She said that my behavior was antsy and I was anxious and that my story didn't add up. I've been called aggressive. I've never been aggressive with anybody in my whole life. I still to this day am not addressed by name in court. And I don't understand why. CPS has denied 2 home studies that have already been approved for my family because they said they don't think that my family can follow a court order or be protective, which meant to me, they believe black people can't follow rules. And I've been fighting ever since they terminated my rights because of that, because they just didn't believe that I didn't know anything. I filed an appeal immediately to push my child on this other family. So far, I haven't spent a Christmas with my baby. I missed both of her birthdays. Her caregiver insisted on taking her out of town each year for her birthday so I couldn't see her. I haven't spent one holiday with her. I watched my child grow up on someone else's screen of their phone. I couldn't see her because of COVID. And it's to the point that her caregivers even taught her to call them mom and dad. They have been trying to erase me from the moment they took her from me. And to this day, I still cannot understand what I did.
Give thanks for coming forward and for bearing witness to this gathering, this very important conversation that is not being had in the right spaces. There are children who are being stolen and sold on the black market through the illegal abduction under the guise of protection. Children's protective services is a sham, is a fraud. There are too many holes in their system for us to depend on them anymore. You have smeared so many mothers and fathers' reputations, and you continue to destabilize the black family. So we're calling you out, and we're calling for accountability now. We're calling for more voices to stand with the mothers, that you have heard their stories today. You have heard the pain. Enough is enough. Police brutality recently has helped to underline racism across America. But what you haven't heard is what is happening with our children. This is what is happening with our children. They're falling through the cracks and they have no voice. They have no cameras to document what is happening to them. See this, hear this, but listen and share this far and wide. We need you to be a part of this movement too. Don't just sit aside and look and comment. Stand up. Stand up. Say something out loud. See? Give thanks.